Well, welcome back to Simple Truth. We're trying to pull some simple truths out of the story of David, out of this story that comes from 1 Samuel chapter 23. We just got to verse 6 or to verse 13 yesterday. The fact that sometimes God moves us around from place to place in order to protect us from the enemy. I want to start in verse 14. It says this: David stayed in the strongholds that were in the desert and in the hill country and in the wilderness of Ziph. Saul looked for him all the time, but God did not deliver David into his hands. David realized that Saul had come out to seek his life at that time. David was in Horish in the wilderness of Ziph. So you look at this story, right? And it's very interesting, right? Because it says earlier, so Saul called a halt to that part of the expedition. Sometimes when we can't see the enemy working, we assume that he stopped, he doesn't care. No, the enemy never stops hunting you, right? But God is going to move you to places where he might not think that you would be, right? That he can't find you, right? This whole idea that God didn't put David in Saul's hands. He never turned him over. He protected. You can be being searched for, but God can stop you from being turned over. But again, all of this hinges on yours and my obedience to God. Be in the right place at the right time, and God's not handing you over. Be above reproach, right? Be a person of integrity. Do the things that God has asked you to do so that you can stay under his protection, right? Notice, David's pretty far away from the kingship, the kingdom of Israel. Right? He is now on the edges, the parameters, right, of this kingdom, trying to stay alive with his 600 men. Now, you and I might think, well, that's a little hard to keep 600 men and their families hidden, right? Again, this isn't a David thing. This is a God thing. God refused to turn David over. But notice, at the same time, David's getting to know his kingdom in a way he wouldn't normally know, right? He's having to live off, right, of the land. He's having to survive. He's having to take care of people in tough circumstances. These are all lessons that he's going to need. So maybe in some of the wilderness moments of your life, some of the moving all around, some of the what is God doing question moments, right? God is saying, listen, I'm preparing you. I'm preparing you to know your land, know where you are, know the people, know how to take care of people, learn how to really, truly take care of people. So as you look around at where you are right now, what God has, he's got you on the fringes at your workplace, right? You're not where you're supposed to be. You got called. You think you're there for a reason, but it's not happening. You're on the fringes of your church, right? You're on the fringes of whatever it is. You're searching. You got a promise from God, and you're trying to keep your promise to God, which is, I'm going to be faithful regardless, no matter what you do, right? I'm going to do these things, and you're going to somehow take care of it. Sometimes God's provision and his protection comes in just the fact that he refuses to turn you over to the enemy. Doesn't mean that you're not being chased after. Doesn't mean that it isn't going to have an effect on you. Doesn't mean that you're going to have all that you want to eat or all the houses you want to have, the nice things that you want to have, all those things. That might not be there. But what will happen is you're going to go to work every day, and it might be miserable. God says, I'm never turning you over, right, to the hand of your boss, to the evil that's going on around you. Right? I want you to stay at this church. I know it's a mess. I know that there are ungodly things happening. There are things that are really tough. You want to leave. You got hurt feelings. You got all these things. Stay here, because I'm not turning you over to the enemy. I'm developing you. Hey, that's a super important concept. We got to look at things from the right perspective. That's why we get this story. All these little points play into David becoming the king and to getting the kingdom from God. So chew on that for a little bit. We'll see you next time right here on Simple Truth.